Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Well, I've been thinking about doing a video like this for quite some time, and I'm finally getting around to doing it. And that is, why photography? Why do we do photography? What can we do to get better? Just kind of, this is going to maybe be a ramble of thoughts. Photography is one of those things that you can become pretty good at, in fact, probably even an expert, without a lot of formal training. You know, it's not like a hard science, like molecular biology, which is what I used to do, and I had to spend 3 years in a lab in grad school just to get a master's degree. It would have been another 2 or 3 years to get a PhD. Hindsight being what it is, sometimes I think, maybe I should have done that, but nah, the past is the past. But the photography, especially nowadays, you've got all this stuff on YouTube telling you what to do and how to do it, but also you have a lot of not so great information as well. So you got to be a little careful. When I got into photography seriously, you know, this was in film days, and we didn't have YouTube, and so we had books. Books are still good. We had magazines. And I spent a fair amount of time reading books and magazines on photography. When it comes down to it, sometimes you just have to go out and do it. And so what I think the danger is with YouTube is there is so much information that you can get overwhelmed. You have got all of these photographers telling you, you know, how to do certain things, how not to do certain things, do this, don't do that. Reminds me of an old song from the early 1970s, sign, everywhere a sign. Blocking out the scenery, messing with my mind. Do this, don't do that. Can't you see the sign? Can't you read the sign? Probably. Anyway, but I think what happens then is if you get your brain full of this stuff about what to do, what not to do, all of these things that you can, you know, you can end up being so overwhelmed that you go out and you're like, kind of you can get paralyzed, right? So at some point you have to just stop, and you have to go out and you have to do it, because for all of the mistakes that you're going to learn about on YouTube, you're probably going to discover a few more, and you're probably still going to make some of the mistakes that you're being told not to do. Might not be a bad idea if you're starting out to have a little notepad, so that when you make a mistake, you write down, I did this. Great thing about modern times is digital photography, instant feedback. You know exactly what you did wrong, and you can fix it. We didn't have that advantage back in film days. You know, you had to drop the film off at the lab. You had to wait. If you're shooting transparencies, there was no 1 hour photo. Yeah, if you're shooting prints, sure, you can just drop it off at 1 hour photo place. There was a thing called Photomat with these kiosks that were in parking lots at various shopping centers. You could drop your film off at that kiosk and pick it up later on. When I went to work for the stock agency, at that point, at least, they had an E6 transparency film processor, so I could shoot. And one of the perks that I got from working there was that I could put my film in the developer and in about 2 hours see what I'd done. But there's nothing worse than you know, developing a 36 exposure roll of film and then all of a sudden realizing that you messed up everything. You had the ISO set wrong, whatever you did. You know, these days, pretty hard to mess up 36 digital photographs in a row. The other thing is, my feeling is that you should be doing photography and producing work primarily for yourself. Not everybody's going to like what you do. In fact, it's real possible the majority of people aren't. And there's going to be a minority that really, really like what your work is. And that also kind of leads to being willing to accept input and criticism. It's hard to do, you know, to get negative criticism. You know, we're animals, right? We're still animals. We naturally react to criticism in a defensive manner. That is the natural way to respond. But it's not the best way to respond. I mean, the best way to respond is to realize that somebody might have a point, and maybe you need to look at what you're doing, and learn by that. I think the worst thing that you can do if you want to get better is going on to online forums and posting work. And what happens on a forum is it doesn't matter what somebody posts. Everybody's positive. Everybody says, "Oh, that's a wonderful photograph. Oh, that's great." Even if it's The only forum that I ever really saw where actually was real criticism and people accepted it because it was part of the deal was fredmiranda.com. That, in those forums, the creative forums on Fred Miranda, people know that by posting, they're opening themselves up to criticism. And so, that helps you. Somebody telling that you're awesome all the time doesn't do you any good, doesn't really do anybody any good, because if you go through life thinking you're awesome, you kind of are a dick. So there's that. When you're on YouTube, make an effort to watch as many channels that are about photography and about photographers as you are watching that are about what to do, how to do it, what mistakes not to make, and also gear reviews. I mean, nothing wrong with gear reviews. I mean, if you're interested in a piece of gear, it's probably a really good idea to see what people have to say about it. So nothing wrong with that, but boy, you can spend a lot of time watching gear reviews. Gear reviews, as far as if you're a YouTuber, I find this very interesting. If I put up a video about gear, I know it's going to take off. I know it's going to get a lot of views. If I put up a video about, let's just say, photojournalists, I know it's going to do okay, but it's not going to do what a gear review does. I find myself occasionally going, I could use some views, so I'll put up this gear review. Along those lines, chasing likes on social media. Same thing as the forums. Going on Instagram, going on now Vero and various platforms, and putting out photographs and just trying to get all these likes. It's just you're gonna spend so much time worrying about that you're gonna lose focus on what is important and what is important about your work. So, that kind of ties into, yes, those of us who do gear reviews are definitely guilty of chasing likes. But, I think in general, as photographers, chasing likes on social media, it goes to that same thing as most people aren't going to care about your work, and some are. So, along those lines, as far as, getting out and doing photography and just getting out there and doing it, and I will preface this by saying I find going out and doing like nature photography or street photography, I find it for the most part to be, especially nature photography, I found it to be an individual thing. I am not really that interested in getting together with folks on like a photo hike where there's a bunch of us going out and doing photography. When I go out and I do nature photography, that is my refuge. That is my mental health time. It doesn't mean that I won't occasionally get together with other people. More likely when doing street photography, I'll get together with Howard and sometimes go out and do that. But to make a long story short, I last week did get up early one morning, took a nice little walk at Nature Preserve not far from here, Salt Creek Woods Nature Preserve. And here I will leave you with a little video slideshow, and we're going to talk a little bit about gear. 3 lenses and a G9 is what I use for this. So the G9 with the 12 to 35 millimeter f2.8, the 45 to 150 f4 to 5.6. So I took that for weight saving reasons rather than my 35 to 100. A Canon 500D close-up attachment for that lens to do a little bit of close-up work, and a 100 to 300 Lumix lens. So if this was interesting, helpful, thought-provoking, hey, hit that like button. That's a big help to me. If you have your own insights on on photography and on getting better at it, and maybe tell us how you got into it, or what the attraction was to get you into photography, but leave comments down below. Any other comments and questions are great. Here's a slideshow. I'm Todd Banner. I will see you next time.